Hey, this is Shaheen over at Webupon, and this is episode number 8 of Chalk Talk Thursday, the Ocho. Today I wanted to cover how to audit your SEO agency or consultant. Now, this isn't going to be a complete in-depth review of how to actually audit your site. That's going to be a little bit more complicated, but for any business owner or in-house marketer, this is going to be a really quick overview of some things that you can do to actually get a sense of how your rankings are and whether or not your SEO budget is actually being spent in a useful way for your business, and even if your SEO agency is currently hurting you. So I'm going to dive into the 3 KPIs that really matter with your organic SEO work, which is rankings, your GA data, and actual technical stuff that's out there just to see if anything's been done. And then I'm going to talk about some red flags that are pretty common that should also let you know if your SEO agency or consultant is less than legit. So first thing most people think about when they think about SEO is they think about rankings, right? Now, rankings can be very important at a basic level just from branding, right? You want your name and your product to show up when you Google that. You want to be seen. You don't want competitors controlling the conversation around your product area. So rankings have that impact, but also just at a more practical level, generally speaking, the most cost-effective way for people to get revenue to their site is going to be through organic listings in Google. Ads can be very effective, but you always have to pay. Organic rankings are more consistent, and you can sort of work on one area, turn that into a revenue generator, and then move on to another one. So how do you know whether your SEO spend is effective? Well, in my world, there's really one tool that does this better than any other when it comes to keyword tracking, keyword rank tracking. Now, the reason why SEMrush is so excellent is because it does a really good job of tracking out things historically. It has most sites in there, not all of them. So unlike tools like Ahrefs or SERPstat is actually pretty good at preservation as well. But AccuRanker, a lot of these other tools that basically allow you to input data. SEMrush has really excellent information going back often some years for rankings on a site. So even if you've been working with someone for a year or so, you can see if your rankings took a nosedive at some point. Okay, so as far as rankings go, let me just interject here real quick and take you to how to actually do this on your home screen. So you're going to go to semrush.com. I'll leave a link below. You can use my referral link, and you should be good for a 7-day free trial. And these guys are super legit. They're located in the US, and you can definitely trust them. So all you have to do is just make a beeline for any of their actual search windows. So the thing that you really want to look at is your domain overview. And this is probably their most helpful feature. This is what I love about them. They just have a lot of really solid data warehousing. They also have some pretty good international information. So you're going to want to type the name in. You're going to want to make sure that you're on domain overview rather than just looking at an individual URL or any of their other functionality. And then you're going to click on organic research. SEO, the traffic we're targeting is organic. It's coming organically from Google. And this is going to show you right here your all-time traffic. So I actually revived a super old domain, so you'll see that this domain had tons of traffic back in the day. What I really love is you should be able to see a pretty consistent growth trend on your site over time. If you don't see that, that's bad. I just launched this business, or we've only been around for a little bit as a company, as an agency. So you can see we basically launched in October, I think, and boom, here we are. So a couple key things to note here, right? You want to look at the overall ranking trends. You want to see hopefully an upward trend, or at least an upward trend over time. The really important thing I think to zero in on here is what your actual top 3 keyword rankings look like, so you can organize all this information and you should be able to see it from a top-down perspective, and that's how I would actually approach it, and that's how I like to think about it. The 21 through 50 rankings and the 51 through 100 and the 11 through 20s, those are all really good. Those are indicative of success. You want to have those. You want to have keywords in that group that are actually going into the top 3. But at the end of the day, your top 3 keywords are what's actually going to drive growth and traffic to the site, and you want to see those moving up over time. If you don't see that, you're really going to be hurting yourself and shooting yourself in the foot. So That's basically a breakdown of SEMrush. The other feature I'll note is you can also see these little notation tags here. So SEMrush is awesome. They included this, I think, in an update or two ago, and they now sort of note whenever there's a major algorithm update in Google, and they also just sort of note whenever there's high sensor activity. So again, if you see a massive drop off all of a sudden and there's one of these little G's there, then you're probably, most likely you're looking at a specific Google update that caused an issue, and that can actually tell you what you need to fix. So again, SEMrush is a great tool. You can just jump in here. They have great data warehousing. They tell you what's been going on. Obviously, if your domain's totally new like mine, you're not going to see information going back very far. And then they're actually going to tell you what your individual keywords are, which is the best feature, so you can optimize them. A lot of people like other systems where you put the information in and it then shows you, what keywords you're ranking for. But, that's useful if you're super obsessive and you just want to check constantly and know at every second how well you're ranking, but it's not very good because you want to basically be looking at keywords that have reported volume from Google, because that's really what's going to drive traffic, is keywords that people are consistently searching, not a keyword that you just want to rank for whatever reason. Now, a few key things to note here, right? So I think most site owners, you want to see your rankings sort of look like that, but in reality, there's going to be some Google updates, so things can change, and then you may recover, and that may or may not be your SEO's fault. So the thing to keep in mind is, if you hired someone here, and then something just plummeted the next month, that could mean that they made a change on the site that was catastrophic, and that's probably something that you want to have a second opinion on, quite frankly, especially if you're a little bit leery about where your SEOs have left you. It's good to just hire a consultant or someone from an agency to come in and take a look and let you know if there's some smoking gun of a huge problem that's occurred. So even though everyone kind of wants their rankings to just be this straight line all the way to the top, there usually is a little bit of variation there, so keep that in mind. And secondarily, there can be Google updates that massively impact your site. Now, if you hire someone over here and they've been with you for 8 months or something, and then you suddenly plummet, well, depending on your relationship with them, that could mean that they didn't prepare correctly. It could mean that you just had them working on other stuff. So again, it's a good idea to bring in a second opinion, and I will say that there's kind of a 50-50 on both sides as to that situation. But generally speaking, a good consultant or a good agency that's actually doing the work should be able to prepare and make sure that you don't get a huge plummet like this, and actually, like some of your competitors, when a huge Google update happens, you actually benefit from that change rather than being hurt from it. Now, the second thing I'll say, but again, you just want to trend upwards, and you want to see the keywords that you want to rank for showing with positive information inside of SEMrush, so you're actually seeing some progress. That's probably the biggest smoking gun. So if you've hired someone for a really, really long time and your rankings are kind of just, nothing's happening, not that interesting, it's probably a good sign that you need an SEO agency or consultant that actually knows what they're doing. Second thing I'll say is look inside of Google Analytics data. This is probably a better end-all be-all because you can actually look inside and find revenue and session traffic and actually sort of get a sense of what's going on in the site. There's some good views that I'll sort of divert this video to, so you can check that out and get a really, really good tour of what this information is and what you should be checking for. Jumping in here again, so this is Google Analytics. Now, Google Analytics is something that should probably be set up on your site. I mean, there's a couple of different analytics platforms out there. I'm just going to cover Google Analytics because it's the most common one, it's the easiest, and again, this is where you really want to be seeing long-term growth. Now, a few things to note, you're probably going to see something like this when you first log in here. All this information is super cute, but honestly, not very useful as far as I'm concerned. So what you're going to want to do is hop down here, and also there's some audience info here, which is awesome, and I always recommend checking it out. But when it comes down to hard numbers, you're going to want to click on acquisition, and then you're going to click on all traffic, and you can look in here and you can see some source medium data, which is very, very helpful. This can tell you a lot about your business and what's going on, and you can see a specific breakdown of site traffic. So I get a lot of traffic from direct, Google organic, Bing organic, lot less, it just drops off to Facebook and just random other mentions across the web. I'm also getting traffic from there. This is a very, very useful way to look at your site, is just the overall ratio of traffic between various parts of the site. And again, there's this handy little date functionality up here. You can just compare information week over week and see a breakdown of where your traffic's coming from. And the one thing I'll say as a KPI here, ideally your direct traffic is becoming a smaller and smaller chunk over time, and organic is becoming a bigger and bigger chunk. And hopefully paid isn't crushing you with too much spend there, right? So the way to think about it is, over time, most content marketing and SEO that's going well, you'll end up seeing a higher and higher proportion of your traffic coming from organic. You will see growth in direct, because obviously that organic needs to turn into good customers over time. But the sign of a well-functioning site is that at least 30% of their traffic's coming from organic, and that's how you're actually getting business. Again, in this top right thing, you can also do previous year, which if you've hired an SEO consultant for a year, you can just take the overall year that you've had them on and compare that to the previous year. So you'll see trends that are consistent by season, just because seasonality is always going to be a thing. For example, you're going to have a massive drop off the last week of December. That's just going to happen. But if you're not seeing consistency there and you're just seeing an overall drop off, it's probably a bad sign. Now, the most useful feature in my mind is if you go over to behavior and then you click on site content and then you click on landing pages, or you can look at all pages. I love landing pages because this is probably the strictest interpretation of what your traffic looks like. So you're going to go over here, and rather than click on all users, let's quickly click, let's do a little Control F for organic. And if we type that and set that segment to be turned on, we'll see how much of our traffic's from organic. Obviously, I get a lot of direct traffic right now, and that'll get replaced over time. But this is good to sort of just note. You want to see that there's consistency. You don't want the ratios to be weird here. But anyways, so check out organic. That's going to basically be traffic that's coming in from search engines. And then if you just set this, you can basically check your month-over-month performance, or if you've been working with someone for 3 months, you can quickly see what the traffic looks like over that time period. So right here, we're just going to quickly compare January 2019 to December 2018. Sessions are up for organic by 20%, which is totally what we expect, because obviously the holiday is the last week. Everyone was pretty much out of commission in December. So, let's look at November compared to the most recent month. It's probably going to be a more accurate picture. And okay, sessions are up 70%. So even better as far as the organic goes. The other thing to note is some months will be shorter than others, but at a macro level, this is the most useful view, because you can look at sessions, and then if you also want to track, you can look at revenue. I'm not an e-com store, but you can look at revenue numbers here, and that's very helpful, right? Basically, if your revenue and the people on your site aren't going up over time, you can set a really, really long date range inside of Google Analytics, and you can see this information. And if you're not seeing an improvement there, it's probably a really, really bad sign. The third thing I'll say is a technical audit. So I'm not a huge fan of the technical audits that tools like SEMrush or Ahrefs or Moz have, just because it's kind of applied through their crawler. Their crawler can have some weird idiosyncrasies. So, to me, it's sort of like just trusting their opinion, and I don't like that. Obviously, if you don't know as much about SEO, it can be useful to just sort of dive in there. But I would say just get a tool like Screaming Frog. It's free, and it can crawl sites under 500 pages, which is the vast majority of sites out there. What you're going to do is just download this. It works on both Mac and PC, and what this is a crawler. It's going to go to a site. It's going to jump through the entire site. You're going to see it populate with all the URLs and images and all that good stuff. So I don't want to get too much into the weeds here. I'll probably end up making a longer video about how to sort of quickly audit a site. But the main thing you want to look at is your response codes. So hop over here. If you see, thousands and thousands of 301s, that's probably a problem. if you have a few here and there, it's a pretty common thing, so it's no big deal, but you want to have your site pretty clean. So you want to check for redirections. You want to hop over to blockbyrobots.txt. If you see a lot of blockage there, it's probably a bad sign. If the wrong things are getting blocked, that's something that should worry you. And then you also want to hop over to client errors 404s. If you see hundreds of 404s and you've had someone around for a long time and they don't have a lot to do, it's if there's just issues like that on your site that no one's solved, even though the impact's small, that's typically a red flag that on a larger issue that not a lot's happening. The other thing I'll say is just hop over to your page title tags. If the words here don't really match the words in the URLs or the products that you're trying to sell or how you're trying to position those products, that's probably a pretty big red flag. So that should let you know that the spend is probably not being used in the most efficient manner it could be. And the last thing that I'll show you is if you hop in here and you scroll over to the right, you should see a column that says Meta Robots. Now, if your entire site says no index, no follow, that's probably pretty bad. If you also see no canonical elements anywhere on your site, and I'll note the site URLs, right? So we're not going to have canonical elements on pictures. That's a bad sign. And then if you see super high response times or any bigger issue like that, that should probably let you know that your SEO consultant is just not thinking about things in the right way. And then also this indexability column, if it says non-indexable and it's a page that should clearly be indexed, that's another big red flag on the SEO side of things. So those are the key rundowns of Screaming Frog. Other tools like SEMrush and Ahrefs and Moz that have automated audits can be useful, but again, I like this just because it's raw data, and if you see some of these red flags that I just outlined, then you know that something's up. Now, there can be a lot of SEO technical work that can happen outside of the site itself, but this to me can be a pretty good indicator of whether or not they're actually up to something, especially if you've had them for a few years. If there isn't something that was a very recent issue like a site move or a site redesign, and you just have these consistent 404s and you also have anemic rankings, it's probably a good sign that they're just not up to much. So you as the business owner, even outside of organic data, you should just sort of jump ship, in my opinion. Now, the other thing that I'll note about these 3 KPIs is there's a little bit of complication here, right? So I really like to use all 3 when I evaluate someone's services, right? So keep in mind, you may be doing really, really excellent work from the branding perspective. You may be very aggressive about your advertising, and you may be getting the name out there, right? So it's possible that your organic traffic and your organic revenue is up hugely, but your rankings are actually down, or your site is a complete mess from a technical perspective. So keep in mind that you kind of want to evaluate all 3 factors. You want to look for smoking guns like rankings plummeting, but you need to look at the whole picture, because the traffic can be up and the money can be up, but the rankings can be down and the site can suck. At the same time, your SEO agency or consultant could be working hard. Your rankings may be up very, very high, but your revenue may not be there. And that could just be a situation where the market's shifted and people aren't buying as much, or we can't sell it, right? And quite frankly, that's not necessarily the SEO consultant or agency's fault, but you do really have to reevaluate the strategy there. And if they're good at their job, they'll be able to say, okay, we need to actually target this other part of the market. It's not practical for you to be spending money on me here, and there's actually something more useful I could be doing with my time. So that said, I think there are really 3 common red flags when it comes to SEO agencies and consultants out there, right? So it comes down to no reports, no audit, and basically no strategy, right? So if you have all 3, you're probably not getting anything for your money. Now, the SEO report side of the situation is stunningly lacking out there, right? There are a lot of companies that actually don't issue monthly or weekly reports, aren't really forthcoming with your actual ranking data or your Google Analytics data, and that's a shame. So, I think 2 things that you want to see inside of any SEO report is rankings and traffic numbers. Now, every month isn't going to be incredible, right? Some times of the year are going to be a little bit more slow, but the important thing is that when you hire someone for SEO, they're willing to make a long-term commitment in the same way that you do with content marketing, and they're basically honest with you every month, right? If traffic's bad, I tell my client and we can reassess the strategy, or we can figure out what specifically was the issue, and then we're able to address it, right? But your SEO agency should never be hiding the fact that rankings are down or traffic's down. That's typically a huge red flag, right? Or if they're just talking about other metrics that are just sort of like amorphous, like your impressions. Impressions are just how many times your ranking's seen. It's not equivalent to how much actual traffic and revenue your business is getting. So if you find your agency avoiding giving you reports, if they're not sharing ranking data or session traffic, or if they're just talking about other KPIs and they don't want to discuss these two, that's typically a huge red flag, and that should let you know they're probably not the best at what they're doing, or they're not in it for the right reasons. The second thing I'll say is no audit. So any good SEO agency should be doing audits semi-frequently. Now, depending on your site size and your business and your maturity and frankly how much you're paying them, this could be monthly, quarterly, yearly, whatever it may be. The important thing to sort of realize is you want a benchmark document. So you can go from year to year and you can say like, we have a 59% and we fixed X, Y, and Z issues, or now we're at 99, whatever it may be. You want to have a team that's able to sort of forecast and tell you what's actually going on at the site in any given month. The third thing I'll say is they have no strategy. So quite frankly, every marketer needs to be thinking about the funnel, or however you want to put it. Like, there has to be some key area of your market that is an ideal customer base that the SEO can say, we should target this specific niche with these keywords because it has the highest conversion rate and the highest likelihood of actually producing revenue on your site, right? You want some sort of actual SEO strategy. It's not enough to just say, oh, we need to rank #1 for this one keyword. It's not what the SEO landscape looks like at this point, right? You want a company that can actually come in and give you a strategy and help you achieve goals that are in line with your overall business goals, right? Someone that can say, oh, in Q4, you guys are trying to do this, you're telling me about this product launch. That means that right now in Q1 and Q2, we have to do this strategy so that we can put you in that position down the line. So those are the key things that you should be looking at as a business owner or in-house marketer, just to check and make sure that the SEO agency or consultant that you're working with is helpful. I hope that was good, and if you have any questions or you would like me to look into anything extra, just let me know. Please comment down below. I would love to get your feedback. Thank you.